Your manager sends you a 2-line message. No punctuation or context, just, we need to talk about the deck. Before you've even opened it, your chest is tight, your face is hot, and a voice in your head is already building a case for why you're about to get fired. 30 seconds later, you open the message. It's about a font size. But you're still jittery. If you've ever wondered why a comment that small can produce a reaction that large, you're not imagining it, and you're not overreacting. What just happened has a name, and understanding it is going to save you a lot of unearned shame. This is the insight gap around old emotions. Not the fact that they resurface, you already know that. The real question is why knowing about the pattern hasn't stopped the pattern from firing. Here's the part that a lot of people don't fully understand. Emotional memory doesn't run on a calendar. It doesn't check how many years have passed, how many books you've read, or how many hours of self-work you've put in. It runs on pattern recognition. A tone of voice, a facial expression, a phrase, even the timing of a message can match something your subconscious flagged as dangerous a long time ago. When that match happens, your body responds to that past perceived threat, not to the present moment. The reaction is built around what this feels like, using a template from somewhere else. So when a 2-line message from your manager hits the exact same way a critical comment from a parent once did, your subconscious isn't confused. It's doing exactly what it was built to do: protect you from something that once felt threatening. It found a pattern and it sounded the alarm. For a lot of high achievers, this alarm doesn't look like a panic attack. It looks like anxiety before a meeting where there's nothing really on the line, or the urge to rewrite an email 4 times so nobody can find anything wrong with it. Both are protective strategies your mind built a long time ago. Different moment, same operating system. Now I'll get to why insight doesn't turn off that alarm in a second, because that's the part that trips up almost everyone who's done real work on themselves. So stay with me. Now this shows up everywhere, not just at work. Your partner stops talking after a hard conversation, and instead of reading it as, they need a minute, your body reads it as, I'm about to be abandoned. A friend cancels plans last minute and sends a perfectly reasonable explanation, and you still spend the next hour convinced they're pulling away from you. None of these reactions match the size of the event. All of them match the size of something older and younger. So here's a real example. Michael couldn't figure out why a single conversation had ruined his entire evening. The feedback itself wasn't harsh at all. His director looked over a proposal, pointed out a few changes, and delivered them in what Michael later described as a flat tone. No raised voice, no criticism that crossed a line, just lacking emotion. By the time Michael got home, though, he was furious, then embarrassed that he was furious, then completely confused about why something so small had hit him so hard. None of it made sense. He'd spent 2 years in therapy, and he understood where so much of his wiring came from. Growing up, his father rarely yelled. Disapproval came in a different form. His father's voice would go flat. He wouldn't say much. His face would sort of close off. The message was unmistakable. You've disappointed me, and this conversation is over. Michael had unpacked that pattern countless times. He could explain it. He knew how it shaped him. So why was he sitting at his kitchen table, replaying a comment about a proposal as if his entire career depended on it? His first thought was the same one so many people have. After everything I've worked through, why am I still reacting like this? It's an understandable question. It's also built on an assumption that isn't true. It assumes that insight and instinct operate as one system, that once you understand something, your body should automatically stop responding to it. But those are two very different processes. Insight lives in the part of your brain that makes sense of your experiences. It works with language, context, and reflection. It's the part that can look back on your past experiences and connect the dots. Your nervous system has an entirely different job. It isn't interested in nuance. It's scanning for familiar patterns, asking the same thing over and over. Is this a threat? Have I seen this before? If the answer is yes, and that pattern was once connected to pain or rejection, it responds immediately, long before your thinking brain has a chance to weigh in. That's exactly what happened to Michael. His nervous system recognized something that felt just enough like an old warning signal to hit the alarm. And once it did, another familiar pattern showed up: perfectionism. Before sending his response to the director, Michael rewrote his email 3 separate times. He scrutinized every sentence, removing anything that might sound defensive, anything that could be misunderstood. On the surface, it looked like he was being really thoughtful, but underneath, he was trying to solve a much older problem. Some part of him still believed that if he could just say the right thing, if he could make the email perfect enough, the uncomfortable feeling inside him would finally disappear. Now, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but it never works that way. Because perfectionism isn't trying to write a better email. It's trying to prevent an old emotional wound from being reopened. That's why self-awareness alone doesn't switch these reactions off. Understanding the pattern gives you language for what's happening. It doesn't erase the instinct overnight. Healing isn't measured by whether your nervous system ever sounds the alarm again. There are certain things you need that alarm to go off for. The goal is to decrease the number of misfirings and shift your response once you realize the alarm has gone off. Real change comes from learning to recognize an old emotion as something the body remembers, instead of treating it as proof of what's happening right now, and then attending to that old emotion in the way you needed back then. So here are 2 simple ways to practice that this week, and neither one requires you to talk yourself out of the feeling in the moment, which almost never works anyway. First, when a reaction feels bigger than the event that caused it, ask one question before you respond to anyone. Does the size of this feeling match the size of what just happened? If not, start to get curious about what the disproportionate reaction might be connected to. You're not trying to answer anything perfectly. You're just creating some space between the alarm and your response. Second, name it out loud or in writing. Something like, "This feels familiar," like my dad's flat voice when he was disappointed in me when I was younger. This really isn't about what's happening with my director right now. Naming the source doesn't make the feeling disappear immediately, and it doesn't have to. What it does is separate the intensity of the feeling from the accuracy of the story you're telling yourself about what it means. That separation is where the real work happens. Both of these will feel a little uncomfortable at first because you're interrupting a reaction that's been running on autopilot for a really long time. That discomfort is a sign the exercise is working, not a sign you're doing it wrong. Old emotions resurface because your subconscious did its job and took note of something that once mattered for your emotional protection. Learning to recognize them as stored safety strategies rather than as the full truth of what's happening right now is what lets you respond to today with a clear head instead of defending against yesterday. Here's a better question than, why am I still like this? What did this reaction use to protect me from? Your patterns make sense once you know what they were built to do. And please hear me when I say there's always a purpose and there is always good intention behind them. Understanding this is what makes it possible to start changing these patterns. If this is the kind of pattern you keep running into, these are the exact topics I unpack in my book, Unpacked: How to Detach from the Subconscious Beliefs That Are Sabotaging Your Life. You can grab the free first chapter using the link in the description or pinned in the comments. No strings attached. Subscribe for therapist-backed videos on high-functioning anxiety, perfectionism, people-pleasing, and unprocessed trauma. I'll see you in the next one.